it's just crazy to believe.
Right, like zombie takeout's normal. What's up? Welcome to episode 271 of Zombie Takeout. The B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listener submitted. This is from John Phillips in reference to last week's episode, our review of Godzilla, the 98 Roland Emmerich version. He said, "Oh, this pile of shit. Saw this opening weekend and haven't watched a Roland Emmerich film since." You made the right decision, John. Which may change with ID4, haven't fully committed yet. And then he said, "I can imagine the Woody Woodpecker cartoon. If only Roland had listened to Blue Oyster Cult's song Godzilla, this never would have happened." Particularly funny because one of your title suggestions this week was based on a song by Blue Oyster Cult, which I didn't even think of. And John mentioned it.
The movie purely, reflects the song.
Yeah. And I mentioned that, regrettably, ID4 I saw in a theater, but I haven't paid for a Roland Emmerich film since. Godzilla and The Day After Tomorrow were both on Netflix, and I haven't seen it. Oh, and I think I acquired Stargate, but that's all I've seen.
I saw ID4 in the theater as well, regrettably.
Mm. Yeah. And I said the only way I'd see ID4, the ID4 sequel, is if we reviewed it, which is unfortunately very likely.
I don't think I've forgiven Bill Pullman since, tell you the truth.
And to which John said, "What's pulling me to go is seeing Pullman looking like batshit crazy Randy Quaid." Have you seen the trailer?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they had it before Force Awakens.
Okay. It does look kind of entertaining, I have to admit.
He gives the same fucking stupid Independence Day
speech. Well, yeah, I think it is
one.
The exact same speech. In fact, I think I don't have it in my notes, but I think that was my next comment wasn't that the same speech?
Yes. It's just so cringeworthy the first time around that you're like, let's bring that back.
All right, so on to some news. Don't really have a story this week, at least not one that I'm going to read because the site wouldn't load.
Damn them.
But apparently the BBC is rebooting one of our favorite Britcoms. Are You Being Served?
They are planning, actually, a number of reboots.
Uh-huh.
Just to celebrate 60 years, I guess they're saying.
Okay.
Of comedy at the BBC. Which, one of them is going to be Keeping Up Appearances. The other one I'm not familiar with. Think about A Life at Pompeii.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, me neither.
I've heard of Keeping Up Appearances, but I don't think I've seen it. I love Are You Being Served? I was initially very dubious. I'm still very dubious. As I've mentioned before, Frank Thornton, who played Captain Peacock, was a huge influence on me. Love his work. And of course, there's only one John Inman. Although I do have an idea of who could fill John Inman's shoes. And could be a good Mr. Humphreys. And I'm surprised you haven't thought of it.
I'm thinking, they could get Graham Norton.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
Who's kind of doing like a Humphreys in the first place.
The question is, who can replace Captain Peacock?
People don't realize with comedy that the straight man is really the key.
Yeah.
They used to, in the old days, they paid Abbott way more than Costello because the jokes just aren't going to be funny unless there's someone there to set them up well. You
need, and I hate to go here, but I'm showing my age, but I'm trying to play a little younger. If you got Chris Farley, you need David Spade. Chris Farley on his own. Or, you need an Aykroyd to Belushi or Abbott to Costello.
Exactly.
Can't think of any good teams that are younger than Spade and Farley. Or I should say more recent.
Right now, I guess you would have Rogan and...
Okay. I was thinking movies, but all right.
And Franco. I don't know.
Yeah, Ron and Fez. Fez was the buffoon, Ron was the straight man.
Yeah.
Did they officially end the show, by the way? We never got back to that.
They, I would say Ron was, Yeah, well, they did end that show.
Okay.
He started a new show with his daughter, and it's it's pretty good stuff.
But from what I wasn't as big a fan of you, but Fez was more the buffoon than Ron, certainly.
It got weird towards the end with his his insanity, and it was for real. His insanity turns out. I mean, the whole thing was he thought it was a bit, and then no, he's really lost it.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then he turned into just this mess, and it was just train wreck radio for like a good year or so or two.
Oh, wow.
But anyway.
But point is, I can't think of a good British straight man to replace Frank Thornton.
Yeah, that's tough.
Actually, well, I can if they're really going big. And you said the cast was supposed to be star-studded?
The word that has been floating around is they're going to use an all-star
cast. I knew Star was in there somewhere.
So, it's not that crazy to think they could get like a former Time Lord or something in there.
Well, that's not where I was going, though. Some of them could be good. I'm thinking Rowan Atkinson.
Wow.
As Captain Peacock. That could work.
Wow. Yeah, he could totally do that.
It just happened to hit me.
I was going to go with Eccleston.
Yeah. I if he can do comedy. I don't know. I've never seen him do comedy. Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 1999, the next year. Godzilla 2000 Millennium. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Awkward Dubs. Nothing captures that classic kaiju feel like an awkward English dub. Try one in your next movie.
And also brought to you by City Tower. Come for all of your intergalactic pissing contest needs. Stay for all of mankind's data.
And also sponsored by Regenerator G1. It's kind of like stem cells, but for some reason it's not.
It's also the worst rapper name I've ever heard.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we have a purposeful grimace and a terrible sound. He pulls the spitting high-tension wires down. Helpless people on a subway train scream bug-eyed as he looks down on them.
Are you reading the screenplay?
He picks up a bus and he throws it back down, and he wades through the buildings toward the center of town. Oh no, they say he's got to go, go, Godzilla.
That's what you're reading.
Oh no, there goes Tokyo. Go, Godzilla. History shows again and again how nature points up the folly of men, and hilarity ensues.
Yeah. Check out the Godzilla handbook, and there is no actual Godzilla handbook, but the understood handbook on how to make a good Godzilla film, and that's this. Pretty much everything the song is based on.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of stuff that was missed in the in Emmerich's.
The Emmerich version has a lot of the same elements, but still somehow fails spectacularly.
Yeah, it's funny. I rated Emmerich's version lower than the Ghidorah movie with those annoying twins.
Yeah.
I gave that a brain and a half.
Now,
I gave Emmerich's a single brain.
Now, one thing this had that the Emmerich version didn't is a hilariously awkward English dub, which just really makes it feel like a classic Godzilla film.
I was kind of hoping to find, a subtitled version, but I could not.
No, I don't think they've released it outside of Japan. Although the subbed version is, I think, 10 minutes longer.
Really?
Yeah. There was about 10 minutes cut. Apparently, it was just stuff that tightens up the movie and just really doesn't fit with the dub.
Yeah, there was a lot of extra fat in the beginning of the movie, it felt, that just wasn't really necessary. But they did that on all the Godzilla movies.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's always been the problem. Godzilla movies are the perfect movies to just kind of tune into in the middle, and then watch the throwdown, and then move on with your life.
I kind of liked the whole ride, probably because of last week. It was just such a nice change to see a practical Godzilla for one thing, but also just a classic Godzilla film. And this was released the next year, so it had to be a complete reaction to Emmerich's. It was just basically Toho saying, this is how it's done.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, they were working on this, I guess, in '99. So
It was released in '99. They probably could have put it together pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're
I
probably right.
suspect as soon as they saw Emmerich's version, they said, "Fuck this, we're doing it our way."
They're probably the only people that saw Emmerich's version.
And for once, I'm not really inclined to nitpick the physics.
Oh,
because it's a Godzilla movie.
Oh my god, you could tire your arms out
picking
bits out of this. Holy shit.
But I did nitpick the physics last week, which is weird. I guess, Emmerich's version annoyed me enough that I wanted to do that. It was nice to see the modern version of Rubber Suit and Miniatures, though. Because it does look better than it did back in the day.
When they did go to CGI, boy, was that embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, there is a little CG. This is actually the only Toho movie with a CG Godzilla. It's in the scene where you see him swimming underwater.
Oh, right. I was thinking of the ship, when it first flew off.
Yeah. That
was pretty CG.
Yeah, sure. There's some CG, particularly.
Actually, my notes say somewhere there's an aha video without any effects.
and most of the shots of the alien ship were CG, obviously.
The score was very nice.
I didn't really notice it. It just kind of, I guess, because it fit the movie.
Well, it was reminiscent of the old classic monster movie score.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot for the life of me find the actual name of the theme. But it's, the classic, the monsters destroying the town music that you're playing. Anytime you Google, like, monster movie themes, it's just scary movie themes, all from, like, Jaws to later. Just kind of like, movies existed before the 1970s, motherfucker.
There were also some very cheesy green screen shots, I should say.
Oh, of course.
And they were actually kind of a welcome change. I think a lot of my reaction to this is going to be in light of Emmerich's. If I saw this, in another context, I don't think I would have had the same opinion of it.
Well, I don't know. I think if they had some of Emmerich's, CGI capabilities with their sense of, what the movie really is about, I think, I don't know what they could have done with it,
Yeah.
I mean, true, it's nice to see the guys in the rubber suits literally swallowing one person's head, which I don't even know. I can't even understand what the fuck happened in the end.
What's honestly the opposite of phallic?
But yeah, it just didn't make any sense. Like, wait a minute. So why would he open his mouth up and why would he what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah, it just kind of tried to inhale Godzilla.
Yeah.
The Orgo is the name of the alien creature.
Orgo.
Yeah.
Oh, did they get that from the young ones?
Wow, that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
It's the name of the demon. Oh, your name. They'll say that all the time. Should we go to the movies or go to the pub?
Now, this one completely ignores all previous Godzilla movies.
Of course.
But yet they know about Godzilla. It's not an origin story. It's not like the first time he's struck.
Right. It's very weird because the beginning, and hence the title here, they are Lucy and Linus sitting in the pumpkin patch and waiting for the great pumpkin to arise. And the dude knows all about Godzilla already.
Well, even the military guys knew about him.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, so it's Godzilla, huh? He's just a celebrity in Tokyo. And if that's the case, why don't they build stronger buildings in Tokyo?
Yeah.
Godzilla-proof that shit.
It also allows them to not really talk about the whole atomic radiation thing very much.
Well, they do
they do talk about it, but they're not really trying to figure out what he is.
Right.
They already know.
They're talking about, the energy. It seemed like everybody knew, like, you dummy, you took pictures too close to him and his radioactivity, just somehow messed your camera up, which I'm not. If that's the case, anybody that stood close to Godzilla would be like
irradiated.
Would have like cancer by the end of the next couple of weeks.
But does anyone get? Well, I guess if it affects the camera, you're close enough. I was gonna say nobody gets that close to Godzilla and survives it. Hence the end of the movie. Now there was a shot of Windows 98 in this movie, and it looked hilariously archaic. I just got a kick out of that. Because I first saw it and thought, what version of Windows are they using? And then I realized it was made in 99.
And what about I don't think anybody had that many iMacs around.
That's a good point.
I mean, there were no stores here that had all of the fruit flavors.
Yeah, exactly. Was that long ago?
Yes.
I didn't notice it in the movie.
The girl had a tangerine, and then when Orgo was taking all the data, there was an Apple store, I think it was, or either cafe, that had iMacs and all different fruit flavors all around, and they were all flashing around, which is completely unrealistic because no one can ever hack a Mac.
Wow. Oh, incidentally, it wasn't Orgo who was doing the hacking. Up until the transformation, it was Millennium. Or Millennium.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the ship with the tentacles was Millennium, and then when it transmogrified, it became Orgo. Okay. None of this is mentioned in the movie. It's just from the press material.
Not Fufanuchus, the other demon, I think.
Oh, speaking of odd-sounding words in this movie, one of the English dub actors spoke German for a moment.
Really?
When the shit's hitting the fan, and this guy's trying to close up his store, and he says "Gotten Himmel."
Why does he speak German?
I have no idea. And it's not like it was set during World War II, so there could have been something like that. The guy didn't look that old. It was just this weird German line in the English dub of a Japanese movie. I just found that amusing. Now, there is one spot where I really kind of lost the plot a bit. Io, the girl, shows up with these discs for her father.
Right.
But then what we thought was the evil scientist takes them, and you think he's evil again. But he's not evil.
Yeah, a lot of it didn't make any sense. What was she even bringing on the discs? Like, what did they really need to know about Godzilla at this point?
Yeah. Well, I think they were trying to figure out Millennium/Orgo at that point and what they were doing. A little disappointed that it was a terraforming storyline. It seems a little cliche. Well, yeah. Millennium, the alien, was here to terraform Earth.
Right. Which, there could have been easier ways of doing what he did?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Also, the alien ship, when it was sitting on the tower, looked like it would have crushed the tower.
Of course.
Because it was significantly larger than the top of the tower.
Any spaceship that was larger than it just stacked on top of it, of course it would just destroy the thing. Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying UFOs can melt steel beams?
Well, it then also used tentacles to forcibly enter the tower. The phallic symbology there is a little insane. And Yuki, the mother, is trying to stop Io from entering the building. And
I don't think Yuki was really her mom, though.
Oh, okay. She referred to her as her mother at one point. I just kind of figured.
I think she was saying that to try to get the people let her girl through. But
anyway, Yuki was trying to stop Io from going into the building, and they're about 100 feet away from the building when it blows, and yet all they get is a bit of wind blown on them.
Oh, right, totally. And, I mean, the guy's inside the building. The building doesn't collapse on anybody.
No. Except for the guy in it got a little bit collapsed on, but obviously, he's the male lead, so he's going to survive.
Right.
So he ends up on top of an elevator and just gets missed by all of the rubble. Flaming rubble, I should say, falling on him.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of... I mean, the big fallout at the end from the two monsters, doing whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that should have taken out, like, how many city blocks? Yeah. Just the explosion from that alone. And they're just, like... The people that are observing it from not that far of a distance are just... Oh, it's windy. Isn't that kind of irritating?
Yeah. Like, okay, they were Yuki and Io were at the bottom of the steps leading up to the building. The thing literally blows up from top to bottom in that order. And they cut to Yuki and Io, and there's wind blowing on them and a little bit of, like, gravel.
This whole building, someone just threw some sand on them.
And, okay, how did Shinoda, the male lead, figure out the terraforming plan?
Yeah, he seemed to be able to... I guess he got into the alien computer through the Mac, of
Maybe,
course.
okay. Well, no, that was through the laptop.
Right,
that was through the 98 machine. I guess he pulled a 94.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they didn't just put a virus through to it.
Although I will say there is something satisfying about seeing actual physical things break, even if they're miniatures, that CG just can't quite catch. And okay, so at this point, the ship turns into Orgo, the giant monster, the obligatory giant monster that Godzilla has to fight, and who tries to swallow Godzilla's head at one point.
A very interesting strategy.
Yeah. And the lead up to it was particularly entertaining.
I'm gonna open my face.
And so they have the obligatory giant monster fight. And then it ends with this hilarious mix of this very philosophical dialogue and Godzilla trampling the city.
Very profound.
Yeah, and this whole thing about how, we all have some Godzilla in us because...
He's like Elvis.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of Godzilla in all of us.
He's come to destroy us, but also save us, and we're all a little bit like him, and they show him trampling around the city.
It doesn't make any sense.
But it was kind of glorious in that sense.
And this whole thing of like, yay, he did it. Now we've got this fucking monster trampling around our city. Okay.
Because that's the one area where it broke from the handbook. It didn't show him going back into the water at the end.
Right.
It just showed him tearing apart the city.
And they're just all like, all right then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, he's like us, I guess. Thank you. And you're not going to terraform the planet. You're just going to fucking stomp on everything we built. Yeah. Nice.
Also, one of these days I want to go through this and check all of the accents to see if they were actually Japanese. Because apparently all of the voice actors were Asian.
I believe it. I definitely believe it.
I believe they're all Asian, sure. But apparently that was meant to make it sound like they weren't... let's see. Oh, yeah. The voice director deliberately made this choice because he did not want the characters to sound like they were from Wisconsin. but not all of them had, accents, or at least not Asian accents. Some of them were American sounding. But there were some Asian accents in there, and I'm wondering if they were all Japanese. I suspect they weren't. Anyway, on to sequels and remakes.
On to sequels and remakes. What could they possibly do after this one?
Schlesinger wrote a script for a direct sequel to Godzilla 2000 entitled Godzilla Reborn that was to be directed by Joe Dante. Think about that for a minute.
Huh.
The film would have shared the same tongue-in-cheek tone as the American release of Godzilla 2000, which is the one we watched. With special effects created by Toho, the plot would have involved Godzilla appearing in Hawaii to battle a foe named Miba, which was envisioned as a flying lava monster resembling a bat.
Nice.
They're stepping into asylum territory here.
Yes, that's what this really reminded me of more than anything else. An asylum pick.
Yeah. Toho approved the script, but Schlesinger was unable to secure the funding for the project, and it was never made. And I think that's part of why I liked it. It did have that asylum feel. And again, it was a classic Godzilla film after last week, which definitely bought it probably a brain or two.
Well, obviously, the meat and potatoes of this movie is the throwdown.
Mm-hmm.
Just, the ship landing at the highest point in the city saying, come get me, kind of thing.
Pretty much.
Just this fucking, what are you going to do about it? You going to, come after me?
Mm-hmm.
And then, the two just destroying everything while they go after each other.
Right.
I've always wanted to see something where they could get voice actors to do the monster voices instead of just screaming and grunting.
That would be interesting, especially if you had
you get Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes, and of course Gilbert Gottfried.
Or I was gonna say Louis Black, but Gilbert Gottfried works too.
Do we want to go with Sam Jackson or just Black and Gottfried?
Ooh, no, I think Samuel L. Jackson.
Sam Jackson as Godzilla, and then either Louis Black or Gilbert Gottfried as the other monster. Yeah. All right, on to brains.
On to brains.
This was a huge relief after last week, and I think that's why I'm going so high. I really enjoyed it. I'm going 4.5.
I was kind of the first half was pretty. It was a tough slog to get through, but the second half does pay off. I'm going 3.
All right, and what have we learned?
So, Wi-Fi is visible through infrared?
And I learned that actors in rubber suits stepping on miniatures is actually still a good idea.
Of course. That never goes out.
All right, so until 2 weeks from now, we're taking next week off because Thursday is my birthday. Thursday of next week.
The longest ever taken to complete a trilogy.
Yeah, probably. If we go from when it was intended, yeah.
Yes. 7 weeks.
When we'll be reviewing Godzilla. When we'll be reviewing Godzilla from 2014, just a couple years ago, the Gareth Edwards version, which is going to be interesting in light of these two. This whole trilogy actually sets up an interesting storyline in and of itself.
Yeah.
Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You can also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I think we're good through like mid-May. I checked the other day. I added 1 or 2 in the next few weeks. We'll talk about after the show. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. And of course, the recommendations list. I was hopeful. I thought this one would make it. You went a little low. Maybe you weren't as relieved to see a classic Godzilla movie as I was.
I couldn't rank it higher than the original.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You can also email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged.
You can go stick your head in a monster.
Okay, that works. 414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
Does that help, Eddie?
Okay, titles, I think I may have the title too, but I'll get to it. I have Back to Basics, Practically Awesome, trying Tentacle Sci-Fi again, because it really does fit this one. Rubber Suit Wrestling. Or the two good, these are the 2 strongest ones. Forgetting Roland Emmerich, play on Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
Or The Floater from Outer Space.
Ooh. I've got like one of the most obvious ones. I'm surprised we haven't used already. Based on a song by Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh yeah, and John even referenced BOC in his comments on the last one.
Or It's the Great Lizard, Charlie Brown.
I like it. I like It's the Great Lizard.
Because it just reminded me of the scene in the beginning where he takes the girl out. They're waiting for and she's like, "You blockhead! There's no Godzilla." Like the 2 of them just sitting in the pumpkin patch. Why they're waiting for Godzilla to rise out, I don't know either. Like there was no evidence that he'd appeared anywhere before that.